Hello, this is Benson Onami on Elias Money Show. I want to welcome you back. For those that are returning and those that are new, please kindly subscribe for us to be sharing about this knowledge about money. And today we are going to focus on emergency fund. What do I mean by emergency fund? Emergency fund is money that is set aside in layman's language for a person to use it in times of emergency. Because in life, as we know, is important to appreciate the fact that everything does not normally work well. There are times that you go under an emergency. Maybe you've lost your work. Maybe you've lost your source of income. There are times the inflation hits you so much. And for you to cope up with these situations that come that you are not prepared for, then as a person who wants to be correct in their finances, who wants to be prudent in their finances, they need to really keep aside money that will help them in case there is an emergency that will arise in their lives. Because we can't predict emergencies. It's something that comes unprepared. So for us, because we know human beings, there are changes, we need to be prudent enough to focus in the future and know that there is something that can happen that can hinder your daily livelihood. This is why, as a person, I teach people on how to have that fund as part of them, because then if you get an emergency, you can sink deeper into debt if you are not prepared. And you have a debt, then it means that you can lose the way of life that you are living. The purpose for emergency fund is this: that even if an emergency comes, it shall never affect the way you live. It will not affect your way of life, your lifestyle. If you had children in school, they will not be able to go to a lesser school. If you you are living in a rental house, you not need to move from that rental house, even if an emergency comes for a certain amount of period. And the minimum period I always advise is 6 months. At least set aside money that can cater for your needs without changing the lifestyle drastically for at least 6 months, as you are preparing to look for another job or start another business or do another thing in the future. So what do I mean? I mean that in your daily living, in your income, you need to set aside money in this emergency fund that will be able to then make you have a buffer. A buffer that means if in case of an eventuality in the future, then I'll have money that I'll fall back to that will not change my lifestyle. And this is compounded by you calculating your all income. That's why it's good to have a budget as a person, so that you know how much do I spend in every month. After doing that, on the rent, on electricity, on those things and school fees, you need to put it to calculate and know the exact value that you spend in a month. And then for emergency fund, for example, for you to be able to sustain yourself for 6 months, then multiply that by 6 months. If it is 20,000 that you use every month for your all expenses, then it means that you need to really calculate 20 times 6, which is 120,000. Or if it is 1 year, you know what to do is 240,000, that you need to have a goal towards saving, reaching the 250,000 if you want to really not to change your life in between if there is an emergency. How do we go about that? We go about it by you opening an account with these banks. They could be banks, they could be insurance like Sanham. They do all this that you set aside. I'm not saying that you get that money as a whole, like 250,000, because now if you're earning like 30,000, how will you get that money? You start saving little by little. And when should you start doing this? Is immediately. Because we know for sure in life there are things that come and which are beyond you, like layoffs. They come beyond you. But what you need to do is that I have saved at least. So you need to put that in your budget. How much do I need to go in my emergency fund? For example, if your expenses is 20,000, like I've said, just as an example, then you say for 6 months I'll be needing 120,000. then now start saving towards that. I'm not saying that you get all the money. I'm saying that you start saving, even if it is 2,000. That is a step that you have taken that will then reach you at a place. Maybe after 2 years, after 3 years, you'll have the 120,000. That will you can now say, even if I lose my work, or if I lose my business, or if something happens, I still continue surviving on these savings that I've done, because I know for sure my expenses for the month is 20,000. They cannot exceed that. How do you go about it? I said you draft a budget of your needs, and in that budget, have a savings account purposely for emergency fund. That you're saying that in this month I'll need to be saving 2,000. 2,000 in 1 year. If you saved very well, you'll see you'll have reached 24,000. For if you compound that for some years, you'll reach the goal that you need. But if you say 2,000 is very little, let me eat it, then it becomes very hard for you in times of troubles to have something to fall back. So today we need to start saving, because it's the beginning of the year. So I believe that if you've never lost work, if you've never lost your income, you cannot understand this. But if you've passed through that situation, you are now prudent enough to know that it is a difficult situation. There is always a drift in your lifestyle. Your children wonder now, we cannot even afford food, because you are not good enough to start having an emergency fund. An emergency fund is important, just like you plan for everything, plan for it, because it will help you in times of need. There are many things that you can do as you look for work, as you continue paying using your emergency fund, like rent, like food. You'll be able to sustain yourself on the emergency fund as you go by in your daily duties for looking for another thing to do if you've lost the income that you're having. And why do we have that emergency fund? Just not in a normal account. We have it in a special account, which is known as an emergency fund, because it accrues some interest. So that when you're still saving, it's still also like an investment. So please be prudent enough this year. Start saving in an emergency fund. It will help you in times of need. Do not just stay there and say, I'm waiting, I'm okay. And there's something that can happen. People lose jobs, people lose their source of income. There is an emergency that can arise in a place of, in the business. The business can burn down. What do you have as a fallback? That will help you to come up again. And I think with that, I'm done, and have a very good year as we begin having a mind of saving in an emergency fund. I look forward to engaging you even more. If you are new, please subscribe. Thank you, and thank you again.